This is video 2 on the practice test, Algebra 1, Unit 4, on writing equations, writing linear equations, that is, given information of the line in all three forms. Let's jump right in. So number 4, we have a multiple choice question. The question is, write the equation of the line that passes through these 2 points. So if you look at the board, the reason why I put this information for you in this order is because when they give you 2 points, it's easiest to find your slope using the slope formula. So that's the first thing you're going to use. That's why it's the first bit of notes that I wrote up on the board. So let's use that slope formula, which is m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And of course, I always start with the division and then the subtraction signs, and I leave the blank spots to actually plug in my x and y, This is my first point, this is my second point. So the the y2 value is 4, the y1 value is 3, the x2 value is 7, the x1 value is 4. And when we do this math, the numerator, 4 take away 3 is 1, and the denominator, 7 take away 4 is 3. So we know that our slope is 1/3. And that's a very important bit of information to write our equation. So if we continue to look at the board, what is right after slope formula? We have point slope form, because that's the easiest form to start with. Once you found your slope, then you jump to point slope form. Why is that? Because you have your slope and you actually have points. What points? The points that you used to actually find the slope. So I am going to use the first point, x1, y1, which is 4, 3. That's x1, y1. Let me label it again, x1, y1. And of course, we are using the point slope formula, which is over here. And I always say, write what's in black and leave everything else blank so you could plug in your values. So y minus blank spot equals blank spot, parentheses x minus blank spot. So let me actually do that right here. And now let's plug in our values. Well, the y1 value goes right here, and the y1 value happens to be a 3. So let's put a 3 right there. The m value is 1/3. That goes right here. Okay, and the x1 value is 4. That goes right here. The reason why I do it with blank spots is just in case this is a -4, you'll see a negative, which has to change to a plus. This is your point slope form equation. Okay, so what we should do is double check our answers, because it is a multiple choice problem. Double check our answers and see if we see this point slope form equation. And we do have, let's see, this exact point slope form equation right here. Y minus 3 equals 1/3 x minus 4. There it is. Y minus 3 equals 1/3 x minus 4. Now let's say you didn't see it, and you check this other point slope form equation and it wasn't it, but you have these other slope intercept form equations, or maybe you have a standard form equation, right? And the point slope forms weren't it, but maybe the other forms are it. So what would you have to do? You would have to distribute and then move this over, and that would be in slope intercept form, or you could also distribute, move this over and get rid of fractions, and then move the x to the other side and change it to standard form. This is the reason why the notes up here are in this order, because if I give you a slope, or if I give you points, you could find the slope. Once you have points and a slope, you could go with point slope form. You want to change it to slope intercept, just distribute, move that over to the other side. You'll have y by itself, it'll be in slope intercept. And from slope intercept, it's really easy to write it in standard form. Just get rid of the fractions and move the x term to the other side, and it'll be an ax plus by equals c form. Anyway, let's move on. This is question number 5. It says, write an equation in standard form. Okay, what is standard form? Ultimately, you want it to look like this. Ax plus by equals c. That's on the board if you need it. What do they give us? They give us 2 points. Again, what could you do with 2 points? You're going to start with the slope formula. That's why I wrote the slope formula first. You're going to use the slope formula, and then you could use the slope and the point to write in point slope, and then you could worry about changing it to standard form. So again, there is a reason why I put all the information up on the board in this order. So let's begin with the slope formula. So here are my points. Here's my slope formula. This is how I use my slope formula. Rewrite it with blank spots and then label your x, your y, your x, your y, your first point and your second point. Then you plug in your values. y2 happens to be -4. y1 happens to be 4. x2 happens to be -1. x1 happens to be -9. Whenever you have a minus minus right next to each other, change it to plus plus. What do we end up with? We have m equals, up here, -4 take away 4, that's a -8. And on the bottom, -1 plus 9, that's a +8. So what is a -8 divided by a +8? That is -1. So we have our slope. We have our slope and we have some points. So regardless of what form they want, the easiest form to use is point-slope form. Why? Because you have your slope and you have some points. Let's go with point-slope form. Again, point-slope form is right here. It's y minus y1 equals m parentheses x minus x1. Again, I say use blank spots. Rewrite everything that's in black, right? Y minus blank spot equals m parentheses x minus blank spot, close parenthesis, and then plug in your values. That's what we're going to do right now. I rewrote the whole thing. Now I'm going to rewrite it with blank spots. And then I'm going to plug in my y1 value, which is 4, my m value, which we found out was -1, and my x1 value, which is -9. I got my x1 and y1 from here, and we found our slope using the slope formula, of course. So this is my point-slope form equation. If this was the equation they were asking for, this would be our answer, right? If they said, write your equation in point-slope form, this would be it. But it doesn't say point-slope form, it says standard form. Okay, so again, if we look at our board, we started with the slope formula, then we went to point-slope form. We might as well change it to slope-intercept and then standard, right? Might as well go through all three forms, okay? So slope-intercept or standard, neither of these have parentheses, right? There are no parentheses here, there's no parentheses here. So what should we do? We should get rid of the parentheses. How do we do that? We distribute -1 times x, that's a -1x, -1 times, this is really a +9, I forgot to change the minus minus to plus plus, but -1 times +9 is a -9, bring down the equal sign, bring down the y minus 4. Okay, so we almost have it in slope-intercept form, getting y by itself. I need to get rid of that -4, so I'm going to add 4. I'm going to do the same to the other side, add 4. What do I have now? I have my slope-intercept form equation. Y equals, the slope is -1x, and then plus the b value, which happens to be a -5. Ladies and gentlemen, if they were to have asked us to write it in slope-intercept form, this is what I would type in. But they did ask us for standard form. Standard form is capital AX plus capital BY equals capital C. Why are they capitalized? To help you remember that you don't want decimals or fractions. And obviously, right here, we don't have decimals or fractions. So all we need to do is worry about getting the X and the Y on the left side of the equal sign, leaving our C value over here on the right side, which is just the number without a variable. So let's do that. Let's get the X to the left side. I want to get rid of that -1x. I want to do the opposite, +1x. That will cancel it out. What I do to one side, I must do to the other, +1x. So what do I have here? I can't really add y plus x, so I'm just going to rewrite it. And of course, in standard form, you want the x term first. So I really have a 1x. You don't have to put the 1. You could if you want to. Plus y, because that's a positive y, right? You have the 1x plus y equals -5. Equals -5. This is our standard form equation. This is what we type in exactly like that. Of course, you could put 1 on your x and 1 on your y if you wanted to. That's why the answers right here show that. The answer is x plus y equals -5, and also 1x plus 1y equals -5. Also, on the instructions it says type it in with no spaces between your terms. So don't put x space plus space, just x plus y equals -5 altogether. All right, I hope we understand that. This next question is very similar to the previous. It says a line passes through these 2 points. Please write the equation in slope-intercept form. So of course you need to know what slope-intercept form is. It's y equals mx plus b. It's on the board. And what's the only thing we could do with 2 points? The only thing we could do with 2 points, you always begin with 2 points and finding the slope formula. This is why I wrote it first up on the board. You're going to begin with the slope formula. So what is the slope formula again? Let's write it down. m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And then, of course, how do you use this? You're going to rewrite it with blank spots. And we need to fill in those blank spots by identifying the x1, y1 and the x2, y2, right? So the y2 value is -2, the y1 value is -6, the x2 value is 4, and the x1 value is 2. Anytime you have a minus minus, it must change to plus plus. Up on the numerator, we really have -2 plus 6. What is -2 plus 6? That's a positive 4. And on the bottom, we have 4 take away 2. That's really 2. So our slope is really 4 over 2, which is really saying 4 divided by 2, which means that the slope is 2. Okay? That's a very, very important part of this process here, finding the slope, m equals 2. Okay, so what's next? On the board, in order, we started with slope formula. Now we found the slope, and of course we have some points, so we're going to use point slope form. Okay, we're going to write it exactly the way this is, but we're going to put blank spots. We're only going to write down what's in black. Y minus blank spot equals blank spot parenthesis x minus blank spot. Again, just write down what's in black, and here it is. And we simply plug in our values. Let's plug in the m value first, why not? That is a 2, and that goes right here in front of the parenthesis. We also have a y1 here and an x1 here. So what is y1? You could see that y1 is -6. We labeled it y1, so that's a -6 right there. And the x1 value happens to be a 2. We could see that the x1 value is a 2. Put a 2 right here, and we are good to go. This is our point slope form equation. Let's just change that minus minus to plus plus. And again, the instruction said find it in slope-intercept form, not point-slope form. But what is slope-intercept form after all? Once you have point-slope form, it's really easy. All you got to do is get y by itself and get rid of these parentheses. So you just distribute whatever value's here, and then whatever number's here, just do the opposite of it to both sides, and you'll have y by itself, and it will be in slope-intercept form. So let's do that. Let's distribute that slope. So that's really a 2 times x, that's 2x. 2 times -2, that's a -4. Bring down the equal sign, bring down the y plus 6. Now it's almost in slope-intercept form. All I need to do is get y by itself. I don't want this plus 6. I'm going to do the opposite of plus 6, which is -6. What you do to one side, you must do to the other. You're going to subtract 6 from the other number. And here's our slope-intercept form equation. Y equals 2x minus 10. This is our slope-intercept form equation. This is what we must type in with no spaces between any terms. Again, that's what it asks for. A line passes through these 2 points. Please write the equation in slope-intercept form. Let's verify the answer. There it is. I don't know if you could see that. The answer is y equals 2x minus 10. No spaces between your terms. All right. I hope we are clear with this. And I hope we also really understand the reason why we have all this information in this order, right? Start with slope, then move on to point slope, then you could change the slope-intercept, then you could change the standard. On this next question, it says write the equation in point slope form, okay? And you know what, don't even worry about the form right now. Let's first find out what they give us, and then we'll use the form that's easiest for us to use based on the information they give us. So yeah, we're going to write it in point slope form, but I'm not even worried about this right now. What are we worried about? It says that the line passes through this point. So they're giving us a point, and then they tell us that our line is perpendicular to the equation above. So they give us an equation, and they tell us that our line is going to be perpendicular to this line. So what does perpendicular mean? These are the 2 vocab words that we need to understand. Perpendicular lines have opposite reciprocal slope values. So if they're giving us a line that has a slope of -1/7, let me zoom in a little here, that line that they give us has the slope -1/7, then they're indirectly giving us our slope. Our slope is going to be the opposite reciprocal slope. Opposite reciprocal. Now what does that mean? It means change the sign and flip the fraction. So you're going to change that to a positive 1/7, but then it flips to become 7 over 1. Okay, so that's really a positive 7 over 1, which in reality is just the nice beautiful number 7. 7 divided by 1 is 7. So our slope is 7. They gave us that slope. Okay, they gave us that slope. Indirectly, they gave us a slope, and they also directly gave us the point. So the slope is 7, and the point that they give us is -5, 6. And that's really an x1 value, y1 value. Now, because we have the point and the slope, we could write this equation in point-slope form, and that's exactly what they're asking for, point-slope form. That's great. That means we don't have to do much work after just plugging it into point-slope form. So here's point-slope form. It says y minus y1 equals m parentheses x minus x1. I'm just going to rewrite that with blank spots. Y minus blank spot equals blank spot parentheses x minus blank spot. Again, I hope you notice that I write what's in black and I leave the red and the blue blank. That way I could plug it in. So the blue is the m, which is a 7, that belongs right here. The y1 is 6, which belongs over here. The x1 is -5, which belongs right here, -5. And of course, the minus minus changes to plus plus. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your answer. You need to type it in with no spaces between your terms. You're going to type it in as y minus 6 equals 7 parentheses x plus 5. Do not distribute that 7. Don't move that 6. This is point slope form. That's the form that they want, point slope. If we check our answers right here, that's exactly the answers that I just wrote. Y minus 6 equals 7 times x plus 5. Notice that I don't have a plus plus 5. I just have a plus 5. Okay, I hope this helps. Let's move on. For the next couple of questions on this video, we need to know these two facts, right? We need to know it on the previous question, but right here it says perpendicular lines have opposite reciprocal slope values. You change the sign and you flip the fraction. Parallel lines have the same slope. Okay, now the thing is, in order for you to determine whether lines are parallel or perpendicular, you need to be able to clearly see the slope. You need to be able to see the slope. Now, if you look at the board, the only way you're going to see the slope is if it's in point slope form. That's the only one that has an m, or slope intercept form. It has an m. If you have it in standard form, you cannot see an m value. So if you did get an equation in standard form or in any other form, you need to change it and make sure that it's either in point slope form or slope intercept form. That way you could compare the m values. If the m's are exactly the same, then they are parallel. If they have an opposite sign and a reciprocal, if you change the sign and flip the fraction, then they are perpendicular. And if it's neither of the two options, then you would say neither. So let's go back to this next question that we have here. The next question is, are these lines parallel, perpendicular, or neither? Okay, so once again, you have to have it either in slope intercept form, y equals mx plus b, or point slope form, y minus y1 equals m parentheses x minus x1. As you could see, these are in those forms. So the slope value here is -4/5, and the slope value over here is +5/4. So if we compare the -4/5 with the +5/4, well, first of all, let's start with the obvious. Are these identical? Absolutely not. They're not the same. And so that means that they're not parallel, because parallel lines have the same slope. If this was a -4/5, this should be a -4/5 if they're parallel. So these are definitely not parallel. You could scratch that option out. Are they perpendicular? Yes, we know they're perpendicular, but why? Because this is negative, and if I change the sign and flip the fraction, it'll be +5/4. Again, change it to a positive, flip the fraction, you end up with a +5/4. Okay, and that's what perpendicular lines are. They have opposite reciprocal slope values. That means change the sign and flip the fraction. So these are perpendicular. Let's try this next one. Are these equations perpendicular, parallel, or neither? So once again, in order for you to compare slopes, you either have to have it in slope intercept form or point slope form. This is the only way you could see the m value, slope intercept or point slope, an m value, an m value. If it's in standard form, you cannot see an m value here. So what would you have to do if you have a standard form equation like we do right here? You'd have to manipulate it, you have to change it to get the y by itself so it could look like slope intercept, so then you could actually look at the slope and compare it to the other one. So check it out. Right here we do have y equals mx plus b, and over here we have the ax plus by equals c. So I know that my first equation has the slope of -3/2, right? That's the slope right there, -3/2. The other one, I need to change it to slope-intercept so I could find the slope as well. So let's begin by subtracting 3x and subtracting 3x. What you do to one side, do to the other side. So what do we have left? We have a 2y on the left side of the equal sign. And over here on the right side, instead of writing -8 minus 3x, I want to write the minus 3x first because I want it in mx plus b form, not b plus mx form. So minus 3x first, and then the minus 8 second. Now it's almost in slope-intercept form. I could almost see my slope. All I need to do is divide everything by 2 to get rid of this multiplication of 2. So divide by 2, divide by 2, divide by 2. And here's my slope-intercept form equation. Y equals, the slope is -3/2. And of course you have an x, and then -4 is the b value. But the bottom line is, the reason why we change this to slope-intercept form is to be able to compare this slope with that slope. Okay, so what about this slope and that slope? They are identical. They are the same. So if the lines have the same slope, that means that they're parallel. So we select parallel. They're not perpendicular. It's not neither. Parallel it is. I hope this helps. So we are at our final question with regards to parallel and perpendicular lines. I believe this will be the final question on this video. It's already getting long. It's asking again, are these perpendicular, parallel, or neither? And once again, the only way you could determine whether they're parallel, it'd be to be able to compare their slopes and see if they are the same slope, then they're parallel. If you have opposite reciprocal slopes, then they're perpendicular lines, right? So the only way to compare the m values is if the equation is either in point slope form, because there's my m, or slope-intercept form, because there's my m. If it's in standard form, I need to change it. I need to get y by itself so I could then see my m. Okay, so my first equation is in y equals mx plus b. So I know that my m value is 1/2. The other one is in standard form. I need to get y by itself. So I am going to get rid of the -4 first. That's plus 4 with the x. I'm sorry. I need to get rid of the minus 4x first, plus 4x. What I do to one side, I do to the other side. What's my new equation? It is 2y equaling 4x minus 15. It's almost in slope-intercept form. I almost have y by itself. All I need to do is get rid of that multiplication of 2 by dividing everything by 2, thus giving us y equals 2x minus 7.5. Who cares? The only thing I really care about is my slope being 2. So the question is, let's start with the obvious. Are these slopes, the 1/2 and the 2, are they identical? Are they the same? No, they're not the same, which means that they're not parallel, because parallel lines have the same slope. If this is a 1/2, this better be a 1/2. Okay. Are they perpendicular? Well, did the sign change and did the fraction flip? Well, the fraction flipped. It became 2/1, which is just 2, but it didn't change the sign. This was positive. That's still positive. So in this case, are they parallel, perpendicular, or neither? We would say neither. Neither. All right, I'm done. I'll start a third video shortly.